voice. There's a lot of different voices, and sometimes they're kind of being pushed and pulled a little.
And that's the thing too, is it's great to have a single shot caller system if that works, because everyone can focus more on their own individual decision making versus what exactly lane assignment should I be in, all this kind of stuff that can crop up. The team shot calling can be great, but sometimes you do lack that kind of dictative voice that you need that Gilius kind of provided last split.
Yeah, well, this time around, we'll see if eUnited is going to change anything up, being back on the blue side, already banning out the Talia in the first round. The Shen has been banned out pretty much every single game as well. Meanwhile, Zach and Galio, pretty much never going to see those guys get through.
And here's the first big question of the draft. Will eUnited try to break up the Xayah Rakan bot lane here? Because on the red side, GCU can easily first rotation that, and they will, in fact, ban out the Xayah. A lot of people feel like of the two, Xayah is the more independent champion who you can take, and if you ban out the Xayah, most people do not run Rakan alone. I also know some people who don't think that way, so it's still, jury's out a little bit on exactly where these two champions lie in the meta.
Well, as you mentioned, Rakara on the Xayah specifically looked impressive and was the reason they turned that gank around in the bottom lane, so why not ban out the pain point? So they get the Xayah off the table. The Kennon's going to be banned away once again from Licorice, so they do wind up going for the Elise first pick. Hey, worked game 1 for Dandy. Let's see if it works again game 3.
And a lot of people say it's the best jungler behind that Zac pick, and as soon as that's banned out, it kind of becomes the obvious takeaway. Doesn't really have any bad matchups, fits in a lot of different team comps, and lets you get 2 draft picks later on that you can kind of counter pick more. GCU going to get that Lee Sin pick for the 3rd game in a row for Santorin. Not necessarily the crazy 10-0, 14-0 Lee Sin that you sometimes see out of Peanut or similarly aggressive players, but Santorin has done a great job of early game making sure that GCU is either even or ahead.
Yeah, pretty much the cerebral style of jungle, the tracking the opposing jungler, and he did a good job of it with tracking Dandy on the Elise in game number 1. Elise did not get off to early snowball advantages, and because of that, the game wound up going very, very long. It was different reasons why GCU was not able to close that out.
We had the Thresh hover for a second there. I was going to get really excited for Mad Life, but instead they're going with the Ashe pick, holding out on the support position. Maybe going to be able to find a different, counter pick that they really want to make sure they have pressure in that lane. On the side of eUnited, they most have been going for farm lanes here, so I wouldn't be too surprised to see them go back to that Karma pick. That worked relatively well for them in game 1, as well as that Varus was the other one that they ran in that duo.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. Game number 2, we had Gold Coin United banning away Caitlyn from eUnited, and this one has been left on the table. They decide not to pick that into the Ashe matchup. Ashe, normally not a bad lane matchup against the Caitlyn, actually pretty good. So they go for the support or the utility pick up here in the Varus, and they take the Thresh away. I guess the Hover, they saw that, got a little afraid. I was like, oh, we need to take that away. A little
psychological warfare there on the side of GCU.
We banned it in game 2. We don't want them to get it.
Yeah, so there you see the takeaway from Mad Life, who was going to respond with the Tahm Kench. And this is one of those champions that it's a little bit of a counter, because if you hook the Ashe, it just gets eaten out. If you hook the Tahm Kench, he's got gray skin, so he's going to be able to trade back for the most part. And a lot of Thresh, he has decent damage, and he has good all-in with the Ignite, but in terms of poking out a Tahm Kench, that's kind of difficult for a Thresh to do. So as long as you survive those all-ins, which he's great at doing, it's very hard for Thresh to come out too far ahead in this lane.
Yeah, and you say kind of with the playmaking supports coming back into the meta, Thresh is kind of the Tahm Kench is kind of the counter playmaker. He's kind of like whatever play you're trying to make, he just kind of gobbles it up and fizzles it out.
A lot of people call that pretty annoying.
Yeah.
The rest of the bans for GCU, though, they take away the Renekton and the Vladimir pick. Vladimir was a huge point for why they were able to win game 1, like we said. United also banning away the Kassadin, the other thing that GCU was running in game 1. So once again, some different mid lane looks here. The Syndra being the last ban. Still extremely strong champion in the meta. Haven't heard too much about it, but it's still very high priority over in Korea and even here in North America as well.
Well, this leaves LeBlanc on the table, which is something that GBM had played in the game against Delta Fox, but is going to be taken away here by GCU. And this was a very powerful pick for GCU last split when Phoenix was playing it, almost perma-banned against them. Whenever he got it, they basically won the game. We'll see if Fly can utilize this pick effectively.
Yeah, we'll have to see. The Kassadin ban mostly being targeted, there's a general ban in Fly's direction, but it does actually open up the LeBlanc, Kassadin being generally considered a good counter pick into it. We'll have to see what they choose to do. Looks like they're hovering the Fiora blind pick again for Licorice. Instead, going with a little bit of a GBM special. He loves that Lissandra pick. It was one of the classic counters to LeBlanc back in the day. Both champions have been changed a little bit, LeBlanc in particular with their big rework. Gonna have to see if this matchup still plays out exactly the same way it did before, because Lissandra kind of had that push advantage way back in the day when it was considered a big counter. If LeBlanc wanted to W the wave to start wave clearing, you just press your W as Lissandra, lock her down and combo her. The wave clear of LeBlanc a little bit different this time around, so you still have to W in to get your passive onto all those marks, but you can the timings work out a little differently. And they're also going to go with the Fiora as well.
Yeah, I still want to mention the Lissandra pick. It's very bold of GBN to be picking that into Fly when Fly was known for playing champions like Lissandra, like the Aurelion Soul, had the roam potential, had the team fight impact, had the lockdown potential. So if anybody's going to know how to play that counter matchup, it's going to be Fly.
Yeah, and I mean, with the Fiora pick as well, you're kind of ending up in that 1-3-1 potential again, where both these champions are perfectly happy being in side lanes. And that's something that we saw both teams kind of execute in game one. So despite the fact that the picks have changed completely in the mid lane, you're still seeing a lot of stylistic similarities. The big difference, like we said, is instead of that Kled pick, which had pretty good team fighting potential overall, this time Licorice on the Fiora, who didn't really have a chance to show it off like what he wanted to probably in game two.
Well, we'll see if Licorice is going to have a bounce-back performance on this Fiora and the Lissandra is going to ice GCU out of a Game 3 victory, or if it's going to be Fly on the LeBlanc moving around the map and making things happen with Solo reprising his role on the Gragas pickup. It's our first Game 3 of the summer split of Challengers. The first time we've been doing best of threes, and we get one immediately on our first broadcast, Mark, so I'm excited.
Instantly showing the upsides of the format change, you get to get a decisive victor. No more of these ties, Tom. I don't know where these came from. We're not European just because we got some players in the league.
We got plenty of them. Well, we had plenty of them in these matchups, but right now I guess we just have Santorin.
Technically an NA player.
Technically, he is an NA player now, so that's why they're able to have both Fly and Madlife on their roster. So already GoldCoin United just kind of fanning out at this one. Both same thing from eUnited, so neither of these teams looking to get too aggressive in the early stages of this game. But, I mean, we are in uncharted territory here. We used to have GoldCoin United that would tie a couple of games, the ceremonious lose game 1, win game 2 GCU. I don't know how they fare in game number 3s. When they got to the Challenger Finals against eUnited, they won game 3, and they were able to win that entire series. And they got to the promotion tournament. It was give or take because they took 2 5-game series against 2 LCS.
Maybe a massive buff to GCU overall, the fact that you can no longer tie. They'll lose game 1 like they continue to do in the spring split, but now they have an extra game to win. They'll go 2-1 every time as opposed to 1-1.
Well, I don't know. That didn't work out for TSM in week 1 of the NALCS, and they were the NALCS equivalent of that, losing pretty much all of their game 1s and then coming back and winning.
I mean, they won the split. I wouldn't say it didn't exactly work out.
Well, it worked out for them
TSM.
last split. It didn't work out for them in week 1 because they lost to Immortals.
Sure, but they've had best of threes the entire spring split for a while now. We're getting sidetracked.
Neither of these teams are TSM, however. Neither of these teams may be used to the fact that they have to play best of threes in the Challenger Series. And this is actually where the experience factor from some of these veteran players is kind of going to play into this one. You talk about 3 rookies from the side of eUnited. The only best of series they have played are in the playoffs and on pretty much on the LCS stage in the promotion tournament. But now you have GBM, you have Fly, you have Dandy, you have Santorin, you have all these players who are, veterans and mentally resilient, hopefully, in these best of 3 and best of 5 scenarios.
Even Solo, to an extent, has been playing in the Challenger Series for an extremely long time. A lot of those high-pressure promotion relegation matches, Licorice having not really had a chance to play in one of those. He did play in the promotion tournament, but eUnited, a lot of their series were not super close. So there wasn't those super high-pressure moments where the game's on the line, it's game 5, the next play could win you the game. Could be the kind of situation they end up in this series. And early on, Fiora might be a point of contention between the two teams. Once again, like you saw in the previous game, if you're able to put that Fiora far behind, she never turns online, never able to influence the map the way she wants to. That's why you see a lot of ganks often in carry matchups where if that carry champion can't get access to a lot of gold, they become very, very useless compared to a tank champion who's always going to have that CC available to them.
Well, funnily enough, the reason the Fiora got put behind was because of a play made across the opposite side of the map where the teleports came into play. And we haven't seen Santorin be very proactive on the top side of the map and really gank for Solo. He's more about getting vision control where Madlight's moving on the map, which has been in that bottom side jungle, in their opponent's side of the map, and trying to spot out where Dandy's going to be to try to keep Solo safe through vision control. So if there isn't going to be a big play that turns around in that double teleport usage, the Fiora against the Gragas matchup, we'll have to see how it pans out, because Licorice, if he goes, does not play from a significant disadvantage against Solo, may be able to start turning that matchup around if he hits the same 2-item power spike at the same time as the Gragas.
The other point we have to talk about, of course, is that mid lane, the LeBlanc-Lissandra matchup, Battle of the L Mages. One of the things I was talking about with the difference in the wave clear pattern out of the LeBlanc a little bit is the fact that back in the day you would max W as the LeBlanc, and so your pushing power was heavily tied into your W, and if you wanted to push, you would lose out on trades potentially. Now you can still have a lot of damage locked away in your passive, so you can trade with Lissandra potentially with just QEs and use the W for the wave clear. And if you miss the Lissandra during that W, it's not the end of the world. Whereas previously, if you missed your W, you got locked down right in front of her and instantly lost that trade. So potentially the matchup not quite as well in lane for the Lissandra, but doesn't mean she's going to get all in all the time or something like that.
Yeah, and the LeBlanc's passive had been nerfed a little bit, so the wave clear potential was cut down, but that's still a tool that was not available when we saw the Lissandra kind of, coming into the meta and the mid lane whatsoever. So GBM, going to be interested to see how he plays this one against Fly. And as we mentioned in Champ Select, Fly's known for a Lissandra game or two himself, but now we see Zeyzal hooking down onto Mad Life, but the reason why the Tahm Kench is so good into that Thresh pickup is he doesn't take a lot of damage when he does get hooked, instead just trades a little back himself.
So we were saying, you take that Tahm Kench into the Thresh. If you go for the Ashe, you save the Ashe. If you go for the Tahm Kench, you just take that beating. You're a big, healthy catfish who heals up after some harass.
Bottom side of the map have been going in favor of GCU pretty much in both games. We mentioned that Deathly and Zeyzal are usually content to go even, if not get slight advantages in the bottom lane, but the advantages that GCU's bottom lane got in game number 2 were the reason they were able to make a lot of plays on the bottom side of the map, because they would push in that lane, ward up the opposing jungle, and then utilize that teleport.
I think that's something worth pointing out, just because Deathly and Zeyzal were holding on in lane fine for the most part. Even after that disastrous start in game 2, they were at a 20 CS deficit, but they held it there. Game 1, even getting pushed in all the time, they were able to hold on fine. The problem is that by having this deficit and pressure, Mad Life runs around the map with Santorin and keeps turning plays for GCU, or at the very least providing vision control, limiting Dandy's ability to influence the map. So while it's great for Deathly and Zeyzal to hold on, they might need to start actually getting some pressure back in this lane on their own to stop all that roaming that Mad Life's been pulling off.
And the answer may be the playmaking support in Zeyzal's Thresh. Now that if Mad Life leaves that lane, Ricara's going to have to play extremely safe, otherwise he's going to get hooked, he's going to get flayed, he's going to get Chain of Corruption, he's going to get taken down. So the playmaking support from Zeyzal may be the answer here, and they're going to start making plays a little bit early on, gets the play down on the Mad Life, but the immediate turn of damage, they throws the lantern down, they hook him back in, but already GBM has roamed down into this one. First blood goes over to Lissandra.
There you saw a little bit of a bait on the side of eUnited. It felt like GCU knew that Danny was up on the top side, so they were not afraid of taking that trade. You see there, Danny just recalling on that ward. They had seen him up on the top side, so GCU's bot lane thought they were safe to win that trade. And out of nowhere, GBM had an unwarded path down to the bot lane. That early roam coming in from GBM, not necessarily what he's known for, but huge and why they're able to win this trade. So you see the hook re-engage right there. Mad Life continues all inning. If Deathly had not, or Riccara, excuse me, had not had to run away, you saw how low Zeyzal got just from the Tahm Kench Devour doing a ton of damage.
So two things that we're not exactly used to seeing. One, GBM getting a proactive roam off at level 6 or pre-level 6 to help out his bottom lane. And two, Goldcoin United having a hole in their vision control between Santorin and Mad Life.
And a big thing about that too is the summoner disadvantage that comes for the LeBlanc here. Because the gank assist by the Lissandra is so strong, you want to run cleanse as the LeBlanc, but traditionally when you pick the LeBlanc, you want to take the teleport to be able to either use pressure in lane and then free you up for roams, or just using the 1-3-1 setup later in the game. Here, that Lissandra pick, obviously coming up huge because GBM had teleported back in the lane, and with that pressure, made that roam down to the bot side.
No, so already advantages now for eUnited in the early stages of this game. The first blood going over to GBM, has picked up the Hex Tech Revolver, as has his opponent in Fly. So we may wind up seeing, maybe more of a bit of a proto belt style from GBM. Lissandra does want to kind of get up close and personal into the fray, and I'm kind of excited because we haven't seen Lissandra for a while, so I'm really interested to see what GBM builds. Is it going to be a Vladimir style build? Is it going to be something different?
Traditionally, a lot of proto belt usage. You could go the Gunblade, but that's not necessarily what you're looking for.
Split push Lissandra.
Yeah, it's not quite the go-to for her. She's a much more AoE-focused champion, though she does have a ton of single-target lockdown and burst with her ultimate W chain CC combo. A lot of the time, as she gets onto a backline, it's much more important about getting in position to do that. So you'll probably see the proto belt into a Zanya's or something like that. Much more focused on the engages versus the pickoffs.
Well, top side of the map, we see Licorice now trying to go on to solo. The Grand Challenge have been thrown down as well. Licorice, though, gets solo extremely low. Santorin joins the fray, but Licorice, A-OK to just lunge back and forth. Knows his damage, knows his distance. GBM coming in. The flash and the frozen tomb will lock down, and solo winds up going down. Santorin now has to turn tail and run. eUnited advantages on the top side now.
GBM all over the map early on, makes a roam down to the bot lane, gets some kills down there, goes up to the top side to counter the gank that Santorin was making. They knew it was coming, they tried to back off, but couldn't get away, as you saw the mobility available to Lissandra, able to get that lockdown kill onto solo. Maybe they should have stuck around and tried to kill Licorice, but it would have been tough.
And this is a side of GBM we haven't necessarily seen, and this is the side of a Lissandra pickup versus a LeBlanc that we don't normally see. Normally it's LeBlanc pushing out the waves, hitting level 6, and then being the one to move around the map and get advantages for her opposing lanes. But this time already, it's Lissandra, 1-0-1. 2 kills on opposite sides of the map. The the LeBlanc hasn't left lane.
And it doesn't get any easier after this. We talk about the differences in the summoners. No teleport for the LeBlanc if she starts to try and match the Lissandra in a side lane. Could have a hard time with the teleport flanks that come in. GBM so far showing he knows how to find good angles for his team.
Well, GBM has gotten advantages for the side of eUnited so far. This top lane roam was one of the ones that we just previously saw. Licorice was already kind of holding his own in this one, and a lot of the credit has to go to this Fiora pickup. Now that he's on even footing with the Gragas in the top lane, being able to take that 2v2 or 2v1 and buy the time for GBM to roam up.
And that's what I was saying is the Lissandra was already on her way up there. Maybe it's worth just trying to finish the kill onto Licorice as opposed to disengaging that. They did have the Dragon's Rage available. I'm not sure if the parry was up for Licorice there. Maybe he would have seen it coming and stopped that displacement from coming in. But if you can get the kick under turret, maybe some Chain CC followed by the Gragas, you can get that kill before the Lissandra gets there. Doesn't work, and now GCU really on the back foot early on.
And Dandy getting met up with Santorin here in the opposing jungle here. So Santorin and Madlife going to get their roam on together and continue to get some of this vision control down. The vision control hasn't been as powerful for Goldcoin Unit as it has been in the previous games, which is why GBM's able to get some of these roams off. And I'm wondering how much of that has actually been Dandy. He's gone for the mobility boots on Elise. He hasn't gotten ganks off. He has been proactively farming. How much of this is him putting vision control down himself and keeping these paths open for GBM? I mean, that's just a question at this point. GBM is actually getting chunked out here by Fly in the mid lane. Now that they both have this blue buff, the LeBlanc's going to be A-OK to kind of take the pressure to GBM's Lissandra.
That's what we're saying. Potentially the trading not being as good for Lissandra as it had been in the past with some of the changes. No more is the LeBlanc's wave clear locked away in her damage as well. One of those changes that you don't necessarily think about right away, but can become an issue. GBM forced out of lane. Will have the teleport to come back, so not too much of a loss of pressure here.
It makes sense as to why the Cassidy has remained a very powerful counter pick to the LeBlanc. His damage is also his shield, which prevents the damage from LeBlanc. But this time around, GBM, well, he does have his Frozen Tomb available now, so now that he has that potential lockdown, we'll see if the LeBlanc continues to trade aggressively.
Also has the Protovote as well, so GBM probably happy to get out of the lane, just down a little bit of CS, 10 right now, but if he can keep finding these angles and openings in the side lanes, he's fine getting his Fiora ahead, letting her win the game. And that's it's kind of funny, a little bit of a grudge match between GBM and Santorin, being previous teammates back in the day on NRG. Here trying to get the best of each other now that GBM's on the opposite side on eUnited.
Well, Santorin, it's been a little bit more proactive in games 1 and 2, whether it was vision control for his now mid laner Fly, try to get advantages over GBM, or whether it was game number 2 where he and Madlife were meeting up for ganks in the mid lane to pay a visit to his former mid laner. This time around, though, it is GBM who seems to be getting the early game last against Santorin, as he's been the one to roam around the map and make things happen. You know, maybe putting on his jungler shoes. Did spend a little bit of time in Vitality in Europe being a jungler. Maybe he got his roams down from that one, but winds up using the Frozen Tomb on the clone. So even though the turnaround was there, wrong choice.
GBM gets bamboozled. Fly walks away at half health. Plenty happy with that trade. No longer the ult available. A lot freer in the lane matchup now. For the most part, LeBlanc not nearly as ulti reliant. So you get that one out of the Lissandra and you can pressure really hard now that you don't need to worry about the gank or just the all-in by itself. And also Madlife shut down a little bit early on with that kill that came in from the GBM roam. Might be able to start influencing the map now as well.
Yeah, so GBM having to use the teleport to get back to the mid lane. So now Fly will not have to worry about a GBM teleport play for the next couple of minutes. Bottom side of the map, though, continue to go kind of in GCU's favor. Definitely does have about a 10 CS advantage, but they're continuing to shove down on that side. And now Solo and Licorice. Solo's gone back and picked up the Ninja Tabby, so he's a little bit more resilient to this pressure coming out from Licorice and kind of stand toe-to-toe if he's fighting in the minions like he is here.
For the most part, but you always have to worry about that all-in that can come in from the Fiora with her ultimate. Solo is mostly on survival duty, which is kind of scary because you look at GCU and who's really going to carry this game. Definitely come late game, we'll have damage. Fly, assuming now with this Gunblade he starts being able to set up a 1-3-1 on someone, maybe he can do it as well, but until then, still 1,500 gold behind. the side of eUnited, who have a lot of vision control down this bot side, might start looking to make a play on this Mountain Dragon.
Yep. Mountain Drake available. That will be something that could potentially help them crack a couple of towers. LeBlanc on the opposite side, though, for the side of Goldcoin United, has completed her Hex Tech Gunblade. So a little bit more sustain, a little bit more damage, and a little bit more burst coming out from this LeBlanc pickup. You mentioned now United's bottom side getting a little bit of the best of GCU's Mad Life and Rakara down here. We do have basically the same itemization on the AD carries, a little bit of tankiness on the side of Thresh from Kench and Santorin. Gets kind of caught out in his own jungle here. That's something that we haven't seen that much of in this series so far.
Well, it hasn't been going up against a strong Elise Lysandra either. Crazy chain CC combination. We talked about just before that the vision control that they had down that bot side and the fact that the Mountain Drake could be a potential target. Santorin reacting to that potential pressure, wants to get some vision down, but walks right into Dandy. The two of them combining for a nice pick off there.
That's kind of the first action we've seen Dandy do so far in this game. Is now the mid lane trade's going to go back and forth. The Fly going into GBM. GBM responding with that Proto Belt to the Hextech Gunblade.
Having the red buff on Santorin, or stealing it from Santorin for GBM, is actually pretty annoying because now the life steal regen you see is heavily outpacing the LeBlanc, already back above half health while LeBlanc is starting to get low. And with that, GCU is going to get sieged on in the mid lane turret. This one dropping down for eUnited. Good call out of them. Not only did they pick the jungler, but they just chunked out the mid laner as well.
Yeah, and that's also because they've had the shield pressure now on their bottom side of the map. They're able to rotate up both Deathly and Zazel. They're able to securely take down the first tower of the game. So first tower gold goes over to the side of eUnited. They split it amongst a bunch of members in the mid lane, but they've increased their gold lead now to about a 3,000 gold advantage, which is something that they haven't had in this entire series, is an early game gold lead.
United been on the back foot. And once again, you would say that their team fighting is pretty reasonable. The LeBlanc will get most likely outperformed by the Lysandra. Gragas is a little bit better for Fiora in terms of setting up kills and things, but you don't necessarily have excellent follow-up. The Ashe Arrow can potentially chain CC, but it's still not quite the same level. So the United looking really good now with that 3,000 gold lead. Dragon's still available. A lot that they can use to work with here. GBM with double buffs.
Just for a little bit longer. Red buff will be falling off shortly, but that blue buff getting picked up for him. There's a pass off there from Dandy. Now eUnited. Boots of mobility on their jungler, boots of mobility on their support. They're going to be looking to try to make a play happen, but GCU are continuing to try to flex their ward and vision control muscles on the bottom side of the map. It's Mad Life and Santorin. I feel like this is the third or fourth time we've seen this exact same troop invading down and the exact same response from Dandy.
This is the first time in this game, though, as eUnited has done a much better job with that early roam by GBM limiting Mad Life. This is the first time he's really gotten out of the lane and deep into this jungle. They're able to get some wards, but this time instantly cleared out of by eUnited. For the most part, a couple still sticking around down there.
A couple of them, but they're not in the greatest positions. One on the backside of the red buff and one just over the wall of the tri-brush area. Danny's going to get his sweeper back online, take that one down for himself. Does see a control ward over by the mid lane brush area. GBM going to get a little aggressive here on the fly as we see once again the interaction between the two W's of these champions. The Proto Belt forward to put damage down as well. But a lot of this is just to continue to clear out this vision around the Dragon Pit. Two control wards taken down just for a little bit of trade of HP in the mid lane between GBM and Fly.
Zazel finally grouping up with Dandy as well to help secure that vision in the river. It was a little scary given the fact that Santorin and Mad Life were still down there in the bot side, but Fly just lost a little bit of a trade to GBM there, and that gave them room to move in and keep grabbing that vision control. And now, GBM with that priority in the mid lane wants to potentially make another play with Licorice here on the top side. Goes over the wall early. Solo doesn't seem like he feels it coming.
Yeah, so it's kind of blocked on the vision, but oh, GBM just kind of shows himself. Lets himself know that the gank is coming in, but it looks like they might just not be going for Solo. They might be going for the tower here, as Licorice is content to just kind of sit back and get some free damage down onto that one. Solo has come back into lane to try to force him away. This is going to prompt a response from GCU on the bottom side of the map. Now, knowing that GBM is on the top side, they're looking to try to start this dragon out.
And eUnited, once again, recognizing that and trying to find their own advantage. Dandy looks like he's going to try and solo down this Rift Herald. At least a pretty good champion for that. Rift Herald, for the most part, pretty easy to solo, but especially if you can get it to turn around. A single champion can walk behind it now and reach that eye to solo it down if they want to, but having the spider lanes makes it even easier for Elise. As Dandy's going to grab that one as Licorice takes down Solo's turret solo.
Yeah, so that's going to be a Rift Herald and a tower traded for a Mountain Drake on the side of GCU. So that's going to be advantages once again going to the side of eUnited. And of course, one of the things that Rift Herald is also good at is taking down towers. So they're going to supplement the fact that they got the tower pushing Drake on the side of GCU by taking the tower pushing Rift Herald.
Well, the thing, too, is GCU, when's the last time that they pushed a turret? It's great that you have the buff that helps you do that, but you need to get in front of a turret to be able to do so first. And right now, they don't have pressure in any of the 3 lanes, so it's a nice objective to keep away from eUnited from using, but at the same time, you yourself will not be using that to get back into the game necessarily. So without finding a pick off first, which GCU has been struggling to do, they won't have a chance to really throw that Mountain Dragon against the turret. That said, now that the map is starting to open up, potentially LeBlanc can move out from the mid lane and start trying to roam around the map and get that 1-3-1 setup going. But with having the mid turret down, it is pretty hard to find those openings while eUnited's is still up.
So eUnited now with the map open in the mid lane with this Lissandra, who does have the teleport still available, and Licorice's Fiora with the teleport available. We'll see if they continue to kind of go for just leave Fiora on her own island to just kind of have her way with the Gragas on the top side and utilize the Rift Herald on potentially the bottom side of the map where that last outer tower is remaining for the side of Goldcoin United. As you mentioned, GCU have yet to really be able to unlock the potential of this LeBlanc to pressure side lanes, to get a split push going, to make United kind of react to them. And a lot of this is stemming off the fact that the Fiora's got an advantage on the top side, or at least stayed even until now she has advantages, and the bottom side of the map is not winning out as easily for Goldcoin United.
Yeah, but at the same time, United was just pressuring up around the top side. Couldn't find an actual angle on it, which leaves the bot side open for GCU to swing behind deftly. Pinned under this turret 1v3, but they do have the double teleport for United. Going to start using those to cut this play off.
Yeah, GBM's going to utilize that one for himself. The Ash Arrow is fired out from Makara. The Chain of Corruption goes down, and Malik going to have to gobble up Santorin, so they do wind up saving deftly at the cost of a teleport.
Barely able to save that one. Obviously, you're not happy with that trade, though, if you're United. Lose a teleport for just a failed play on the top side. Now they're trying to transition it down to this bot lane push.
They got the Rift Herald. They can make this one work.
Well, got to have Dandy get involved and drop it down. Has not used it yet, it looks like. Holding on to that Rift Herald again. Maybe some unfamiliarity with United and the Rift Herald. Having not used it, it would definitely do enough damage to secure that turret. But Dandy not wanting to use it right now, whether you want to call that greedy or smart, is up to you, because they feel pretty confident about getting it by themselves.
Yeah, they might just be able to take this one by themselves and not going to wind up utilizing it. Or maybe Danny just really likes that improved recall, but ooh, they're actually going to wind up utilizing the Rift Herald at the same time that Solo is going to be teleporting in. We did see Licorice responding with a teleport of his own, so now it's a 5-man strong push, making a 5.5-man as Rift Herald charges down the bottom lane tower.
Rift Herald grabs that one. All 5 members were down this bot lane. United want this push to continue going. They might have a chance to do it. Not quite synced up with the minion wave, so it's getting a little difficult, but still getting a really good chunk down on that turret.
Yeah, already about half HP for that tower because of the Rift Herald, as it will bid adieu, and Rift Herald will fall, but United still has multiple members on this bottom side. They moved Licorice back into the middle lane, so he's kind of got a little bit of a split push going on here. Sort of a 1-4 with the middle lane being the one that is being split pushed down by the Fiora, but you will have to back away as Fly rejoins the fray in mid lane.
Good play overall out of eUnited, though. You get to see how favorable that objective trade was for them. They get the Rift Herald, help secure that bot lane turret that they might not have gotten otherwise. And in the meantime, that Mountain Dragon, excuse me, still sitting on the side of GCU, not really impacting the game at all.
So Goldcoin United struggling to find their footing now. They don't have a gold advantage in the early stages of this game. eUnited not snowballing this game out of control, but still utilizing the gold advantages they got early on for the first time in this best-of-3 series, and slowly transitioning them into effective usage. We're at 20 minutes into the game. They've taken out all 3 outer towers. They've utilized the Rift Herald extremely well. Another Mountain Drake will be the next objective that spawns on the map in about a minute and a half. And if they're going to be sending their split pusher down onto the bottom side here, they may have a little bit of priority on that side, while also still threatening the top side with Baron.
They're trying to follow the LeBlanc around with the Lissandra. They saw her up in the top side. They have the 80 carries in the mid lane. And then you have your Fiora in the bot side against the Gragas. This is great for eUnited. All 3 lanes should have pressure in their advantage. And hopefully they're going to start trying to use that to move around the map and find some pickoffs. GCU doing a good job, though, contesting vision in that river right now. As you see how hard it is for Solo in this bot lane to match up against Licorice. Taking down to half, the dive is underway.
Levels down, the grand challenge gets thrown out as well. Licorice gonna flash after, and this is gonna be an easy solo kill for Fiora.
Way too easy. The rank 1 challenger player, Licorice, finds a kill. On the flip side of the map, Dandy getting a little caught out of position, able to be saved by Zeyzal. as they hold on while Licorice works away on this bot turret.
Well, their game plan from game number 2 was Fiora split push to win, and it got set behind extremely early on. This time around, eUnited have the Fiora online, 2-0-0 with their 2-item power spike and the Ravenous Hydra and the Black Cleaver. Means that she's going to be content to split push away against this Gragas, who has no way to fight her. Now GBM's Lissandra going toe-to-toe with Fly, actually going to wind up using the Frozen Tomb on himself to keep himself alive, and Fly barely gets out with any HP.
They Fly obviously losing that matchup as well now, way behind in items, sitting at about an item and a half to GBM's 2.5, getting the much better of the trades now that he used his extra roaming advantage to get himself that lead, as well as the fact that the team now has overall an 8,000 gold advantage from all those turrets that they've grabbed.
Yeah, this is just kind of systematic one-by-one tower pushing. The Ash Hour gets used and it locks down on the Zazel, and looks like Goldcoin United might be looking for desperation, but they're already locked up the LeBlanc. She's got to get devoured to get out of here. Danny's on one side dropping down extremely low, but GBM's locked up Santorin and taking him down on the backside of the fight. Fly has basically no HP, and Solo was busy trying to deal with this Fiora, who's now in the mid lane pushing away. So eUnited get a tower, they get a kill, they give up nothing.
Really nice cocoon by Dandy there on Fly, who wanted to get involved in that play too. Stopped GCU from being able to find any priority targets, able to deal with Santorin. The Ash Arrow didn't connect on anyone that they really wanted to. Taking a look at this one, like we said, it starts off with the Ash Arrow, stuns up there. Tom Kench on Mad Life on the flank, and then Fly goes in and just gets cocooned right away. Instantly, you see eUnited turn, try and finish him off. They're not quite able to get the kill because Mad Life is able to save him, but they're using all this time defensively to help out Fly, which allows them to focus down Santorin. GCU could never really coordinate on a single target, whereas eUnited in that kind of ball was able to fend off the multiple flanks coming in on the side of Goldcoin United.
eUnited this time around, they've given up a single dragon, but they haven't given up a kill, they haven't given up a tower. They're doing extremely well. 5 kills to 0. This game is going at their pace.
Remember what we called it, Tom?
The no-hitter.
They bunted.
They bunted.
They traded a useless dragon in the mountain dragon in order to put something up on the board.
Well, so they may have bunted the first dragon, but they were able to pick up the first dragon, or the second dragon of the game, which is their first dragon, which is also a mountain drake. So while all the outer towers on the map have fallen, that means that Baron will get increased damage, that means those inhibitor towers will get increased damage, and that means that Goldcoin United are going to be hard-pressed to find their way back into this one. 9K gold deficit.
And they don't have the comp to really outscale in any way either. We said you could argue maybe a slightly better 5v5 with the fact that they have extra tankiness available, but from how far behind they are, the damage is way further ahead, as well as the fact that Licorice has that 1v1 advantage. Really hard for GCU to do anything. They are going to need to find pickoffs just like this. They snipe out definitely.
But he's already got a QSS because they're so far ahead. A flash kick there from Santorin. He will wind up finding a kill, giving it over to Fly. That has pulled Licorice away from the bottom lane for now, so Goldcoin United find a much needed kill. And I guess that's our fault. We started talking about the no-hitter and the bunt, and all of a sudden they
well, at least they showed that it wasn't just a bunt to ruin the perfect game. They did find a kill there, and that's exactly what they need. They do have a lot of playmaking tools, which is what I was about to say. They can't win 5v5, they can't win split push. You need to find openings like that. The 80 carrying definitely out of position. Start off with an Ash Arrow, Tom Kenshin teleport in, and then definitely ends up so confused about where he is, ends up flashing towards GCU's base into the loving arms of LeBlanc. So tough spot for Definitely to be in there. Doesn't change the state of the game, but GCU doesn't have a single play to make to change the game. They're just trying to find these small advantages, work their way back into it, keep picking people off, and maybe eventually eUnited makes a big enough mistake that you can truly capitalize on it.
They still got a bit of the grind to go before they wind up taking objectives back in this one, but Licorice already the Guardian Angel, level 17 compared to level 15. A-OK to split push down this inhibitor tower. We see Fly recalling on the top side of the map, but he has to stop his recall because they could be giving out Baron at the same time. Licorice, in the meantime, just going to be A-OK to push down this inhibitor all by himself.
Very limited timer here for GCU. We said they have to keep looking for pickoffs, but it's just 28 minutes in the game. If their enemy team split pushing Fiora can already solo out turrets and inhibitors in front of your tank just trying to hold her, you are in a lot of trouble.
Well, it's about a 9,500 gold amount of trouble, 4 kill deficit amount of trouble, a 7 tower deficit amount of trouble. So yeah, that's eUnited. Definitely their game plan from game number 2. They switched things up a little bit. They're like, all right, well, they had a better 5v5 in game number 2. Take away some of those options for them. This time around, we're going to put GBM on a more comfortable lane matchup against LeBlanc. They're going to be picking the Lissandra for him, which was, you know, the the sort of lane counter to that, but also more proactive play from GBM in this one. The way he's played the Lissandra has definitely been the thing that has gotten the advantage, not just the pick.
I think that's the big thing, because you saw at around like the level 8, 9 when before United had really turned on the boosters and grabbed a big advantage, that the trades were still going slightly in LeBlanc's favor. But the fact that GBM got out of lane as early as level 5 and grabbed the kill on the bot side and then followed it up with a kill for the Fiora up on the top side was huge. If the pick of Lissandra just sat there in lane and tried to counter LeBlanc, probably would not have been that effective. But he got his team rolling early on, and then they, in turn, helped him with an influx of gold through the objective game.
And right now, United, they're playing the vision game pretty strong as well, which is what Goldcoin United have been very good at so far in this entire best of 3. They're still trying to deny as much vision from United's side around this Baron pit area, but they do have Licorice still content to kind of just stay on the bottom side, and Hildy, who's got the inhibitor down there, might just be trying to threaten Nexus towers at this point. If Solo couldn't push him off of that, what's to say he could stop him if he pushes down with a super minion in his backside?
I mean, exactly. eUnited can just keep sitting around this Baron, pulling GCU to come their way, and as long as the vision's deep enough to know when GCU is pulling off that jungle, then, you know, that kind of gives the green light for Licorice to go crazy under these Nexus turrets.
Yep, and he's going to continue pushing down there. United content to put the dance around the Baron pit area. The LeBlanc is continuing to shove out the top lane, which forces GBM to respond. The Ash Arrow coming up from Rakara will land on the Zazel, but pretty tanky Thresh, even though he's got himself a Ruby Sightstone and Redemption. That's pretty much his only completed items. Not the kind of person you want to tag out with that ultimate, so they can't follow up from the side of GCU.
And Rakara just saying, I can hit you if I want to. I just don't really want to.
Well, he hit him with the arrow. Didn't want to follow up with any damage. Now GBM getting jumped on here by Fly. The the Banshee's Veil picked up by Fly, meaning that he's going to be A-okay to block out some of that GBM damage here. The Zanya's getting traded in as they're waiting in for teleports to come. Licorice immediately blew up Santorin. Force Fly out as well. Now they're turning on the Solo. Ricard's gotten cut on the opposite side as he and Madlib are trying to fight the other remaining members of eUnited. They spit definitely out and they're able to pick up a kill and give it to Rakara. Zazel misses the flay and he's going to fall to Solo, but the rest of eUnited have now grouped back up. Ganked by Mom, going to root him up and he gets devoured over the wall, but Licorice, the flash over, says thank you very much. I'll pick up 2 for that one. He's going to wind up riposting away one of the chains, picks up a triple kill onto the Ashes. Guardian Angel's going to get popped, but Fly is the only one left available for GCU. Danny's going to try chasing him down, misses the cocoon, procs the Grom. Over the wall comes GBM, and ace for eUnited.
A little bit sloppy on the side of eUnited, but overall well played enough to get all 5 kills. Turn onto this Baron now. Santorin has spawned, but he's busy dealing with the super creeps from the bot lane inhibitor. Can't really contest this Baron. eUnited's going to be able to grab this one in a complete foothold over the game if they weren't already far enough ahead.
Yeah, a bit of a messy, kind of scattered start to this fight, and the way that it ended was not the way United expected.
And this is what's really great about Lissandra buying so much time for Fiora to complete her teleport. Self-ult, Zanya's flash away, and Santorin wants to get involved, and then once they kill Santorin with the ult on him, it actually starts healing Lissandra up as well. So that's extra defense is available to her. Definitely on the flip side, just goes a little bit too aggressive here, wanting to go in for kills. Tom Kent's going to get that Devour off on him, kills him. And so even though they're winning the fight on the top side, some misplays of the bot lane out of eUnited lets this one get a little sketchy at this point. Licorice actually has to play this pretty well from here on to make sure he's actually going to be able to get these kills. Those two relatively free. Gets onto Rakara once again, dodges out on a lot of that damage. The passive stun still landing. Probably better to dodge out on that damage than the initial E damage, but either way, well played enough by him, gets the triple kill in this fight, and lets the rest of his team chase down for kills.
Over the wall comes GBM. They get the ace, they get the Baron, and now they're going to be pushing into the base. So Licorice does not have his Guardian Angel available, but he's still a 6-0-1 level 18 Fiora compared to Solo's level 16 Gragas. So with the Baron buff on him, he's going to be pushing down the bot side. Definitely quick QSS of the Ash Arrow there, so he does not get engaged upon and wind up going down for a 3rd time this game. Meanwhile, the inhibitor has respawned on the bottom side for the side of GCU, so Licorice knows that he's back on inhibitor pushing duty, but they're trying to just split GCU all up all over their base. They have Fly on the top side pushing against GBM. We have Solo trying to go toe-to-toe with Licorice, and then the remaining 3 in the mid lane pushing up. But with Baron buff minions, and with this amount of gold in their advantage, it's going to take a lot for GCU to come back into this one. But Fly taking chunks of damage from GBM is not how this wants to start. They take down the inhibitor tower, they take down inhibitors, and GCU might just lose their entire base.
They need to pull the trigger right now. GPM's ultimate is down. You have the opportunity. They go for definitely. Santorin flubs the insect, still finds the angle, definitely knocked in flashes out, might be able to live.
Well, definitely taking a lot of damage. The Redemption's out as well, but Zazel's keeping him alive, and the rest of eUnited are trying to collapse. They spit Santorin back out. Mad Life's going to wind up going down. They finally be able to take down GBM, but Licorice goes godlike in the back lines. Lunge will be up in just another second, but they're focusing down on the inhibitors instead.
The right idea, like I was just saying, you have no ultimate on Lissandra. It's your last inhibitor alive. You want to make the move on it, but there's just too much of an advantage for eUnited. They're able to win that fight and win game 3.
eUnited, off of some very patient, very advantage-driven play, are able to close out that series, and there's no big explosive team fight at the end. There's a Baron buff push that winds up leading to this one. There was a disjointed team fight there, but it was pretty much eUnited got an advantage, and they're able to utilize it in ways that we didn't see GCU doing in game 1. We did see them very slowly doing in game 2.
It's hard to find a really well-positioned team fight in the late game when you're so far behind. The other team's in a 1-3-1 setup. They did the right play at the very end there, trying to go onto Deathly. You can't really get onto Licorice, maybe onto Fly, but he still has designs available. So they go for the most susceptible member there. They almost get the angle on him, but then the back line is exposed to those the splitters, and they come in from the flanks. It's just so hard to execute from behind. Right idea of the GCU, but GBM was just too good on this Lissandra pick early on and gave way too big an advantage for eUnited.
Yeah, the big props have to be given to GBM for this entire game is the fact that his Lissandra was extremely proactive. It moved around the map more than the mobile LeBlanc pick you would think would be the one to move around the map. It was Lissandra making the plays happen. More importantly, his first run was to the bottom side of the map, stabilized Deathly and Zazel, and didn't let Mad Life continue to move around the map with Santorin. Zazel was also on a Thresh pick this time, so if Mad Life wanted to move into the jungle to ward with Santorin, he wasn't safe because there was a Thresh that was going to hook his poor AD carry left alone.
That's the thing is, you can't even fault Fly too much for that one, just because with the teleport disadvantage, the way GBM used that was masterful. TP's back into lane early on and then uses it to roam instantly. And then the top side roam as well was huge, getting the Fiora going, which, as you saw, was actually the biggest catalyst for winning this game. Once he was able to start soloing out the Gragas on the bot side, he took an inhibitor by himself, and then from then on, GCU was under such a clock to try and get back into this game.
Yeah, pretty much the Licorice split push game plan was going to be super effective. They wanted to try to get that one online in game number 2, but the flub early game coming out from eUnited, or not necessarily even the flub, but the turnaround from Rakara Zaya, hey, they banned that one away. They give them less of a team fight comp. They give them less of a turnaround in that early game of these lane phase ganks, and they're able to capitalize on it. Mainly the fact that they also prey upon the fact that Santorin doesn't really visit that top side of the map, and the one time he did visit, GBM was already on his way up there to kind of counteract that.
Yeah, you have to look at potentially that Gragas pick being a little bit of a mistake. It was very, very hard for them to be able to hold on if Licorice gets any sort of advantage, and they didn't have nearly as much pressure at other points around the map as they did when they took the Rumble into it the last time around. So very tough position to be in, especially once he starts getting that early lead. Solo kind of got abused by the entire team of eUnited, not just Licorice, obviously.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit of a counter pick or taking that Gragas away. We did see Dandy bringing it into the jungle in game number 2. Wasn't as effective as it may have warranted for that kind of counter pick matchup, but still, Goldcorn United, they come into this one a little bit slower than we would have expected to see from them. Goldcorn United, you know, they won the Challenger Series last split. They almost made it into LCS by like one game twice, and now they're off to another slow start here. But eUnited, they look like they're firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, and I think it's great to see because we talked about how the style was a little simplistic last season, though it was obviously very explosive. They were the number 2 team in the Challenger Series. It was almost all early on Fox and Gillia's playmaking, and then all 5 of them are solid players, and they play together around the advantages that the rest of the team made. Here, a lot more dynamic with Licorice really stepping up into that carry position.
Yeah, well, speaking of Licorice, we have him on the line, so I'd like to welcome Licorice to the broadcast via Skype. Licorice, how's it going?
I'm doing pretty well, thanks.
Yeah, you guys already took a 2-1 victory over Goldcorn United. You had lost to them in the Challenger Series finals last time, so how's it feel to get a little revenge?
It feels pretty good, and it's nice playing against them, especially when it's not tank meta anymore, so I can pull out like some of the picks that I'm more known for, like the Fiora that you guys saw that last game, so felt pretty good.
Speaking of that a little bit, even last split, your coaching staff and some of your teammates were talking you up as more of a carry-oriented player, despite a lot of your highlights being on things like Maokai. Now, is your ability to show this off due to changes in the roster, the meta, or more experience for yourself just being in your second Challenger Series so far?
I think the big thing is the meta, where like last split, if you weren't picking Maokai or like Nautilus, then your team would just have a really rough time like throughout the game. But also, I think that this roster, I think our style is a lot better suited towards split pushing than towards like more of the 5v5 team fighting that we did last split. So I think it's just a combination of everything. And I'm obviously more experienced as a player now and more confident in taking up that carry role.
Speaking of that, you recently hit rank 1 in North America. You had your little AMA. So do you have any advice if anyone's still watching the broadcast, they want to know exactly what they should do with Fiora? Do you have any basic tip you want to give?
I heard it's getting banned, or heard it's getting nerfed soon. So play it while you can. I'm not sure what's going to happen to it. So that's the advice I'd give everyone.
I do have to ask, coming into that matchup, we heard a little bit of an interview from Santorin saying that eUnited was the team that he was looking forward to facing. He thought he was going to have the hardest challenge against you guys. Obviously, you guys wound up coming out ahead in that one, so they were challenged a bit. But how do you feel? Do you feel like Goldcorn United is still the rivals in this one? There's been a lot of roster shakeups in the Challenger Series. So who do you guys in eUnited have your eyes set on?
Originally, we were looking at GCU as being like the other big contender for Challenger Series to split, but after yesterday's games where Tempo actually took a 2-0 over them, I think it's mainly just kind of a toss-up between the three teams right now. And as the split goes forward, we're going to look to like shore up our play a little bit and make sure we take that #1 spot.
And just last question here for you, a little bit about Dandy, obviously, pretty huge name signing, probably the biggest news coming out of the Challenger Series. Arguably, there might be some people who think the Delta Fox lineup was a little more exciting, but Dandy, well known for his season 4 play. What's it like playing with him? Is he really that dominant of a jungler and helps you get those advantages that you need to be that carry style that you want?
Playing with Dandy, I mean, he's a little bit shy actually, but the main thing about playing with him is that he's always where he needs to be on the map without you even saying anything. So like it's just like really reassuring to play with, where like, if you need help or if you need a counter gank, like he's already pathing up, he's already going to be there and he's going to help you out. So it's really helpful.
Yeah, we definitely saw that transition into a victory for you guys there. So congratulations on the 2-1 against Goldcorn United, and thanks for coming on for the interview.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And with tonight's matches complete, let's see how the Challenger League currently stands. With their victory tonight, eUnited will tie for first place alongside of Tempo Storm, whereas Big Gods, Jackals, and CLG Academy will form the middle of the pack with a 1-1 split in the first week of summer. Then at the bottom of the standings, we have Goldcorn United and Delta Fox, who are still looking for their first win in next week's matches. That is it from us here at Challenger, but for more league action, be sure to tune into the NALCS on Friday, where Spring Split MVP Arrow will go up against Rookie of the Split Contracts in our first match between Phoenix 1 and Cloud9, and then Xsmithy and Pobelter will test their mid and jungle synergy against Lyra and Purian in Immortals versus Team Envy. How are you looking forward to those matches, Mark?
A lot of exciting matchups there, like you were just saying, with the differences between Contracts and Arrow, but I think the big thing, of course, is to compare it to actually Inori, who came back recently and has not looked quite up to par from what we saw at the start of the spring split, and then obviously all the swaps start coming in with him and Meteos, and P1 definitely looks a little off kilter based off what you would have assumed from the third place team.
Yeah, so second and third place teams battling it out at the bottom of the standings after week
very
1.
Surprising.
Yeah, and then Immortals and Envy kind of battling at the top of the standings this time around. Immortals took a 2-0. They beat TSM. Envy split 1-1, looking a lot better this time around.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for Envy is, like you're kind of highlighting there, the mid-jungle synergy. Previously, we knew Ninja was great for running around the map and making plays, had some crazy counter picks, but when it came to mid to late game decision-making and team fighting, that was obviously something that they all struggled with. And now it seems like that's something that they're more competent at, as they were able to win a couple of their games in their series late game.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that pans out tomorrow evening. That's going to be it for us tonight. So from myself, Mark, and the entire Challenger broadcast crew, thanks for watching.